In this video, I'll be going over the problem statement in continuation from the last video in which I covered how to write the introduction of a dissertation. The problem statement is often referred to as the most important part of your dissertation because it sets the foundation for your study. Without a proper problem statement, you don't have any basis for why your study is relevant, why it's needed, and why it really should be conducted. So again, the emphasis that you put in the importance of the problem statement, like I said, sets forth the entire reason for your study. So that's why it's important that your problem statement is very clear and concise. It's not a long, drawn-out process where it's 2 to 3 pages. Depending on your chair and the program you're in, it could be anywhere between 250 to 300 words, or no more than 1 page. So again, these limitations are based on the program you're in, but as for the most part is a clear and concise statement that sets the foundation for your study. So getting into the problem statement, as I mentioned, it's a problem. It might be practical, or there's an issue in the profession or the field that you're studying. Now, there should not be a clear, definitive solution. The biggest problem I see among students when they come to me that are in the doctoral process and writing their dissertation is they are already assuming or knowing what the answer or the solution to the problem will be. That's fine to think that you may know the solution, but the problem is if you work in a field, for instance, let's just say you work in technology or higher education, and you're looking into investigating a particular issue, whatever experience you have, do not bring that into your dissertation. This, again, is an unbiased study. So oftentimes I'll hear students say, I'm doing a study on this because I know what the answer will be, and it will be this. So then my question to them is, if you clearly know that there is a solution to the problem and you know the answer, then why are you doing a study? It seems like a waste of time. So you have to find a problem that, again, does not have a clear, definitive solution. How do you get that problem? By reading the literature. So, as you can see here, when defining a problem, a clear distinction must be drawn between what it currently exists and what is desired. Review the limitations and the calls for future research in other studies. Look at other dissertations that have been done. Look at other studies that have been done. In every study, there is a limitation section or a call for future research in which it'll tell you exactly what kind of study should be done moving forward based off of their study. These authors are essentially giving you the problem that still exists or a different route to take with a study. They've kind of done some of the work already for you by providing you more insight into how to proceed with that same study, but just in a different manner. And I'll show you an example of that in a bit. Also, a lack of research alone is not a reason to say that this is a problem. If you're looking for something that is a relatively new topic or a new trend, you may not find a lot of information, but that cannot be a problem. That's not a problem. Sometimes you just need to broaden your search. So another thing, I see a lot is students will come and say, well, I want to do a study on, let's just say we're looking at higher education and we want to look at, there's a problem between students of low income and their GPAs. Well, that can be a problem, but there has to be more. That's not really a problem. You're just making an assumption that one leads to the other. If there's a correlation, again, that you have to find within the literature. Okay, you can have a topic that you want to choose, and that's fine. That's a starting point, but you got to find what the problem is within that specific topic. Okay, because of this is occurring. Okay, then we have a problem. Is it a broader problem? Does it just pertain to one individual school? Again, these are all questions you can only find, again, within the literature, and that you have to clearly find an answer to while you do your study, and that is where the data comes in. The data will speak for itself. So as I mentioned, let me show you this example here of an article in which this is a study that's already been done. Now, this section, limitations and future research suggestions, it's clearly stating that this study was done in a quantitative manner, okay? So as you see in the last sentence before this section is completed, the authors of this thesis suggest that further studies consider qualitative methods and interview investors to get deeper knowledge and more accurate information to understand how social media impacts investment decisions. So the authors of this study are clearly telling you that they did a quantitative study, and they are implying that doing a qualitative study may give you more insight. So ideally, if you were looking to doing a study on investments and say social media, then in this case, it's clearly telling you do a qualitative study and interview investors, okay? That already is telling you what to do for future research. Now, what is the problem? Then we backtrack and we try to find, okay, investing in social media, for instance, what is the problem there? And of course, by reading this study, you would know exactly what the problem is. Okay, now getting into the actual problem statement itself. Okay, I've broken it down here into sections. This is really all put together, and I'll put it together at the end. But the sections are, pretty straightforward, but it's like I said, it's clear and concise. And the problem is a lot of students that I've come across is they drag it out too much and they're trying to define everything. And that's not what the problem statement is. The problem statement, again, is a short, I keep saying clear and concise. I keep reiterating that because it is getting straight to the point what the issue is. Because again, this is setting the foundation for your study. You're going to, go more and elaborate more on the problem in your literature review. The literature review is going to provide you all the claims that why this is a problem. Right now, you're just telling me why this study is needed, and again, setting the groundwork for what's to come in your study. So as you can see, the first sentence, the problem to be addressed in the study was, and in this case, because this is a completed dissertation, you're using was. When you're doing your proposal, meaning you have not yet completed your dissertation, everything is in future tense. So this would be the problem addressed in the study will be, because again, you have not completed the study yet. But the point I'm getting at here is you want to begin with the problem to be addressed, unless otherwise you're told by your chair, but make it as clear as possible what your problem is. You don't want, you don't want to write something where your chair or anyone that's reading your problem statement is not going to clearly understand what your problem is. So to begin, just start off, the problem addressed in the study will be the use of misinformation by inexperienced investors to make investment decisions. That already is as clear as it can be. What's the problem? The misinformation that is used by inexperienced investors to make investment decisions. Now the next section, or the next piece that you see here, is you're going to discuss the problem and you're going to provide evidence of its existence, and that is going to be used by prior studies that have been done, noting that with, of course, in-text citations. So again, you can go into further detail here, talk about social media, but as you can see, this is really just, a couple sentences. We're not doing a whole page and a half. This is not, again, the literature review yet. This is just a brief, in a sense, introduction to what's to come and why your study is being done. Just the background information of the problem. The next sentence, as you can see, is simply just identify who's impacted by the problem. Is it going to be individuals, organizations, society as a whole, and what the potential negative consequences are if you do not conduct this study, okay? The negative consequences of the social issue, if not addressed, can potentially lead to market distortions and catastrophic financial losses, which impacts both individual investors and businesses. Very clear, concise, straight to the point. It's really just answering the question. What's the negative consequence? It's being, if it's not addressed, it can lead to market distortions. Who's impacted by this? Individual investors and businesses. That's it. Simple, again, to the point. The next section is the limitation that calls for research in the relevant scholarly literature. I've already shown you that in the previous article, where there's a section that tells you the limitations for future research. By reading this over and over in various articles, you're going to see different limitations, of course, based on each study. You can compile and get a consensus of what you're seeing the most of, or you can just choose one. But the whole point is that when you're doing a literature review, they are essentially have already done some of the work for you. Now you're just looking for gaps within their own research and kind of coming up with your own analysis to do your study. So again, here providing several in-text citations. I again talk about further research using qualitative methods to interview investors. This section right here is clearly from that article that I just showed you, which is this section right here. So again, incorporating that and then doing that with a couple of more articles. Just talking about the limitations and the future research, basically making your case of why you're choosing the problem that you're choosing, okay? Because again, prior research has already said and stated this issue has, in a sense, there's been somewhat of a solution to it, but we've done quantitative studies. We would like to see what the solutions would be if they'd be the same if they were qualitative, okay? So it's the same thing. If you're doing qualitative and you want to switch to quantitative or mixed methods, whichever method you choose, but the point is that you want to look at what has already been done and then what's being recommended for you to do in the future. And then the last sentence will be, why is the study important? Again, one sentence. Unless a better understanding of this phenomenon is understood, individual investors will continue to invest on misinformation. That's it. That's why it's important. Because if this study does not shed light on this issue and it continues to be a problem, then obviously individual investors will continue to invest on misinformation. Going back to the opening sentence, you're telling me what the problem is, and I'm just telling you that if you do not do this study, this problem will continue. Once you're done addressing each of those components, again, the problem statement in length should really look like this. Like I said, depending on your program, it can vary, but usually it could be 200 to 300 words, and sometimes no more than a page if they give you a page length. But it's a very clear and concise problem statement that is really could just, like in this case, be one paragraph. And you can break this maybe into two if you want. But the point is, again, like I said, is you're trying to get straight to the point. We're so used to when writing that there's all about, including doing a word count and fluff and all this to make your paper longer. And the more I say, the better it sounds. When you're doing a dissertation, that is not the case. People that are reading this for the most part are either already experts in the field or, again, they're looking to publish or do further research, and they've already have a lot of knowledge of this particular area. So you don't need to keep reiterating the same things over and over. You don't need to drag it out, because a lot of people that will read your dissertation are those that are already in the knowing. So the whole point of this is to communicate clearly and to be as concise as possible. And like I said, just get straight to the point. So this covers the problem statement. I hope you found this useful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. You can email me. Like I said, again, in going based off what I have seen when I address these, problems that I see is with students that come to me that are in the doctoral process, and it's usually the same thing. They're always trying to write a problem statement with the intention or idea that they already know what the solution is because they work in that field. You can't mix your passion with something you're passionate about with what you're actually going to be writing about. And the reason I say that is because oftentimes it's not that we're going to try to sway the data to be in our favor, but it's hard to just let the data and the study speak for itself without any kind of bias, without bringing your own experience into it. Okay, that's fine to think that you can anticipate or hypothesize what you think the results will be, and that's 100% okay. But don't include your opinion in the study. Okay, so when you're looking for this to write a statement or a problem statement, look at the literature. That's your one piece of advice I can tell you. Read the literature, look at what the problems are within that particular topic or field you're interested in, and then once you've figured out what the problem is, then you're going to write clearly what the problem is, not with the solution. Again, you're not there yet. That's in chapter 5 when you're providing the solution. Oftentimes, too many people want to get ahead of themselves and they're already mentally writing chapter 5 when they're not even past chapter 1. So in chapter 1, you're going to be doing this. Chapter 2 will be the lit review. Chapter 3, research methodology. Chapter 4 will be a continuation in a sense of your findings. And then chapter 5 will be the limitations and the conclusion, so on and so forth. But again, one component at a time. This is the problem statement. And the next thing we'll move on to will more likely be the purpose statement. But if you have any questions that I mentioned, just drop them in the comments, send me an email, and we'll catch you on the next video.